Michelle and I always had like really big plans when it came to Origin.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was just the push that we needed, or we got a lot of interest of, you know, growing the brand, etc. I think the goal for us is making Origin a global lifestyle brand rather than just have it be associated to silos like Pilates or, you know, Legree or etc.
I'm Karine, and this is The Seat of the Muse, a show I started out of love for meaningful conversations and a curiosity about the stories behind what people do. Each episode is an invitation to sit down, slow down, and listen in, because sometimes a single story can shift how we view our own. This is a space for the stories we don't always hear, the ones behind the titles, the passions, the quiet turning points, and the worlds hidden in plain sight. Now let's get into today's episode. Farah, welcome to the Seat of the Muse podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So you are the co-founder of Origin Circle, Lebanon's first social wellness club. Think heated workouts, Legree, infrared sauna, cold plunges, and so much more. So we're going to talk about all of this today, but before starting any session, I like to ask my guest one question. Imagine we're doing this in front of an audience. Who is one person you would want to see in your front row and why?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say my dad, because he's just been such an incredible support throughout the whole Origin process. He was really hands-on with us, and I don't think Origin would have happened without him. So just would love to have him here.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Dad. So what I find the most powerful, you know, is the intention behind like every corner of the room. Like when I came back, I think it was in March, I just like fell in love with every aspect because you can feel the sense of creation, and there's a feeling of like grounding you can't really feel unless you've been there for the first time. So I want to walk through kind of the journey of how you and your co-founder, Michelle, built Origin Circle. But before we step into that, take me back, you know, to the beginning. What was life for you like before Origin?
Well, thank you, first of all. Life before Origin, I mean, taking it back further, I was born and raised in Kuwait. I went to Paris. I did my undergrad there. I had no idea what I wanted to do in life for a really long time. And even at that point, I started off in law school, and then I switched to business, graduated with the business degree. And then I moved to New York, where I was working mostly in real estate, finance, and development. And I did my master's there as well. So yeah, no particular background in health and wellness, but that was my career trajectory over the last few years.
Yeah. And so when did wellness kind of enter your life, or was it always kind of part of it? At what point did it take part of your life for you to make that step?
I was always pretty active growing up. So I did a bunch of sports, tennis, swimming, horseback riding. But it wasn't, I think at 16, I started experimenting with the gym a bit, but it wasn't until my first year of college that I became more regimented about it. So I started off like properly strength training, splitting my days based on muscle groups, tracking my progress, educating myself a little bit more about food and nutrition in general. And yeah, something that I really fell in love with, and I got into it. And then throughout the years, I kind of used myself as a guinea pig. Like I tried so many different workouts, different methods, you know, CrossFit, cycling, until I finally found something that worked for me both mentally and physically, and just stuck to that. So yeah, it was something that cultivated over like 10 years.
Okay, wow, I love that. And what is today what works for you?
My strength training has always been a constant, and I'm a big advocate for it, especially for women, because women, like especially post-menopause, we lose a significant amount of muscle mass, and that's what protects us the most against losing bone density and all of that. So that's always been a constant for me. I still do that 3 times a week, and then Legree and hot Pilates, mat Pilates is what I also add another 2-3 times a week. Anything that is medium to high intensity but low impact, I find works, because it kind of low. It keeps my nervous system at bay instead of, for example, high intensity workouts just end up stressing me out. And I noticed that it also doesn't give me the body goal that I want versus, you know, Pilates and Legree and strength training.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think anyway, everybody is different and people need to tailor. And I guess trying the way you did is kind of the way to go. Like even for me, I tried so many different workouts until I find kind of what works for me. I think to this day, I'm still looking.
And I think it's always going to evolve, right? And I will never tell somebody, oh no, shouldn't be doing that. Or any sort of movement for your body is already a win, you know? So just do something that you enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. And so obviously, you know, like a lot of people are like riding the wellness wave. It's becoming more and more present in people's lives, but not everyone kind of like makes a business out of it. So what planted the seed for you? Was it like an experience, a specific class, or something that kind of ticked in your head and you were like, I want to do this, and in Lebanon?
So I think generally when I would come back to Lebanon to visit, I was really underwhelmed by the offerings in terms of just the diversity of things that I was able to do, but also the quality. Coming from a very privileged background of having lived in New York and traveled around the States, and they're way ahead of us, way ahead most of the world when it comes to that. I was exposed to a lot of different methods, different like, you know, quality of studios and professionality of like instructors, etc. And so I always felt like there was something missing here, but I didn't live here, right? So it's not like something clicked in my head where I was like, oh, Lebanon is missing this. I need to be the one to open something. But Michelle and I were once on vacation and we were sitting down around the pool. It was a super casual day, and we were both not living in Lebanon at the time, and both expressed interest to move back. As you know, it's not like this place is crawling with professional opportunities. So we're like, okay, we're going to move back and do what? And so we just started, you know, we were both really into fitness and wellness and health. And we're like, let's do something along those lines. She's like, I want to open a heated Pilates studio. I was like, oh my God, me too. And, you know, we should add Legree to that. And it just started off as a conversation. But that's when the moment clicked in my head. I was living at Dubai at the time. I had left New York. So I was geographically a lot closer and I wasn't happy. So I was like, all right, let's just start working on this. And we did.
Wow. Sometimes all it takes is a conversation. Like 100%. Honestly, it's like a tiny brainstorm and you just need someone else to voice it and be like, okay, actually, maybe this is something we can do. And I totally agree with like how it's so underwhelming here. Like I remember when I used to come back, because I live in London, and whenever I come back to Lebanon, I struggled so much to find workouts that kind of work the same way that I do in London. So I just work out at home. So it's amazing that you do that. And I think that in general as well, like a lot of people, you know, we have a lot of expats and we all come back to Lebanon. And whenever we come back, I feel like sometimes like there's so much we can bring from what we have around us, you know, in New York, London, Dubai, we can bring them in Lebanon. So I love that you guys are doing that. I think it's like, it was a long time coming. Like someone had to do it.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad it's here now. And so you left, you know, your corporate life, you know, first New York, then Dubai, and to come back to Lebanon. Did people kind of understand what you guys were trying to do? Did you get any kind of like emotional or logistical resistance in doing that?
I don't recall anything. I don't recall us really even asking for people's opinions or about moving back, you know what I mean? I was like, that doesn't matter to me at all. Like, it's a decision that we both kind of felt comfortable doing. Our families were super supportive and on board and excited. And I think in the beginning, like, listen, everything happened so fast. We were on vacation, I came back and we started working on it, and everything started to actually take shape within a month's time. We had everything prepared and looking for locations. So there was no time to ponder or to ask or to even tell people what we were doing until we actually started doing it. And then you're like, oh, okay, they started already. Like the moves have been done, you know? So not much pushback. On the contrary, I think a lot of positive, you know, people had nothing but praise for somebody who's
Yeah.
actually going to leave something that is so stable and come back and take a chance on a country that is everything but stable,
Yeah.
but that it's your home in the end of the day.
Definitely, I fully agree. And so people often romanticize, building wellness brands, but it's still a business at the end of the day. And as we've discussed, you're not doing this alone. There's Michelle, your co-founder, with you. So I get the sense that like you're longtime friends. You didn't just meet on that holiday. But how is it to work with a friend? And if you can give some advice to people, because obviously like we all travel together with friends, have discussions, fantasize about doing business, opening restaurant, whatever. Then not few people actually act on it. How has it been with her since?
We're incredibly lucky. As you said, like Michelle and I have known each other since we were kids.
Okay.
Childhood friends, our parents are friends, our moms are best friends.
I love that.
We grew up in Kuwait together, and we were actually in New York together.
Okay.
But funnily enough, like we weren't that close in either of those places.
Okay.
But we're really lucky because we're polar opposites in terms of our skill sets, but also in terms of our personalities. But the fact that we're polar opposites means that we work so well with one another, because we bring to the table something that the other person does not. So it's just the synergies are great.
Yeah.
But in terms of working with a friend, I mean, it's, for me at least, if you're thinking of going into business with someone, with a friend in particular, that's the most important decision that you're gonna make, right? So like make the right one. It's like a marriage. It's not just about love. So it's like with your partner and like business, it's not just about, oh, we're friends and we get along. Do you share the same values? Do you have, similar visions of the company? What's your work ethic like? How do you handle stress? How do you communicate when, in an argument? All of these things are really important questions to ask and to put under the test if you can. Michelle and I am very, very grateful that we work really well with one another.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like it can make or break a bit. Like sometimes, I mean, it depends, obviously. I feel like for myself, I can think of people that I love that I could not maybe work with, and then others that I could definitely, work with, and like it would be so seamless. And so let's talk a bit about how you made this idea real. So you had the vision, and then what happened? Like, what is the first thing you guys did? Packed your bags out. You from Dubai? Where was Michelle?
So Michelle was working remotely.
Okay.
So she was not really living full-time in New York at that point. She was spending a lot of time in Lebanon, but she still was technically living in New York. But I have no idea where Michelle went. We were in Italy. Michelle, I think, went back to New York. I came back to Lebanon.
Okay.
And Michelle would say the story, and she laughs so much because she's like, I just thought that was a conversation. I did not think it was going to turn into a reality, but I'm such a doer. So the second I came back to Lebanon, I was so excited. I started putting the financial model together. I started the deck, and that's the only reason Michelle knew that we were actually working on this, because I started tagging her in the Google Slides. Everything that was brand, marketing, etc. I'm like, okay, Michelle, start building this, start filling this in. And at the same time, because I was the one in Lebanon, I started reaching out to different real estate brokers and agents to scout, locations. But I would say from that moment of when we started putting I would call it pitch deck and numbers together, to the moment we found the location, I think all of that happened in a month and a half. So it was really, really fast.
Wow, that's amazing. And were you looking specifically at Jemaise, or like did you have a particular place you wanted? No.
Jemaise was not even in the equation. We were more looking at downtown.
Okay.
And very neighboring kind of areas. And for a smaller space as well. Like initially, because we were thinking downtown and we had the offerings in mind, we assumed based on like the space that was needed, but also the budget, based on this price per square meter in downtown, that we could probably do the 200 square meter range. But then I got on the phone with someone. He was like, I have this beautiful old Lebanese villa. I think it would work so well. It's in Jamaica. I was like, not where my mind was at, but let's go and see it.
Okay.
And the second I stepped in, I was like, this is
This
it.
is it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
Sometimes, it's funny because sometimes you don't kind of take something into the equation, and then it just need one person to show you exactly what you don't know that you need and want. And it's just there. And so at what point does your dad come into play? You know, your dad we want in the front row.
Yeah. Well, we pitched the idea to our parents. I mean, Michelle and I were very lucky in the sense that we had successful careers in New York and we had the savings to invest in this business. But our parents also, like, very luckily helped us out greatly. Yeah. So that was the first moment. But my dad, from that moment, I think when he was pitched, got so excited about the project that he wanted to be so hands-on. And it was quite difficult. This is the first time that we were starting construction project in Lebanon.
Yeah.
So finding the MEPs, the contractors, managing everything on site, and then even past that, like he's a really smart, successful man, and I look up to him a lot, and just the knowledge that he was able to partake, was so incredibly helpful. And yeah, I mean, till this day, he's still at a much lesser extent a support. But yeah, I would say from the beginning up until pretty recently, he's been pretty hands-on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so if we focus a bit on the offering you have, because Origin isn't just a studio, it's like a full experience. And as I listed, all the different things that you have, were you always looking at making it this layered? Because from your conversation with Michelle, it felt like maybe, why not start with just infrared classes or one or two things? Because you created a whole thing directly. How did that kind of thought process come?
It was not supposed to be this layered. We knew we wanted to do, we wanted to have Legree and an infrared room to do a hot mat Pilates and hot yoga. We knew we wanted an F&B component for, healthy snacks and juices and such, and the social aspect, but not to the extent that we have it now. Maybe a little seating area, a bit of indoor, outdoor, but it wasn't supposed to be so layered. It was actually the space that we found, that's Origin today, that kind of navigated that, because we all of a sudden initially were looking for a 200 square meter space. Origin today is 450 indoor and outdoor. So we were like, okay, wow, we found a much bigger space. We know this is it. What other offerings make sense? And that's where recovery came into it. So everything that's infrared sauna, cold plunges, etc. For, I would say, two reasons. Number one, I love sauna, less so cold immersion, cold plunges. I'll do it from time to time, but
I can't even put my toes in, honestly.
It's tough. But I remember I would come to Lebanon and I would want to do saunas, and it was just there were not really that many options. And if there were, they were kind of out of the way. So there was that aspect in terms of the gap in the market, but also just the global conversation happening around the recovery, that you can train as much as you want, but if you're not recovering properly, that you're not going to see the results that you want. And there's a lot more education that started coming out on contrast therapy, benefits of sauna, etc. So we just decided that was the most logical addition. And then really doubling down on the social aspect with the new outdoor spaces that we had. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. I think it's so nice how the space navigated your, kind of what you created. It's a beautiful thing. But so obviously, it's it requires more equipment, more design. So more financial, needs. How did you kind of navigate the cost of starting something that big? And did you face any hurdles or things you hadn't really considered would maybe take so much of your time, money, and
you live and you learn, right? I think initially I put together a budget in the most conservative way that I could. But in a country like Lebanon, the most unforeseen expenses that we had were not related to the equipment, right? Or most of these things, you know what it is ahead of time. I knew what my equipment was going to cost. I got quotations from architects and contractors on what that is going to look like. So those were baked in from the start. But in a place like Lebanon, where I'm importing most of my equipment from abroad, the shipping and the customs, once it gets to the country, add a minimum of 20% to your initial expected cost. So that was, a bit of a surprise, I guess.
Of course.
But yeah, my tip, no matter where you are, is always add like a 20% buffer to whatever model you're putting together for your business. Yeah, and I would say also like what helped us kind of come out of it not so badly is the way that we approached the construction and design and etc., like part of it. So for every labor, material, whatever cost that we had to reach out to suppliers for, we reached out to a minimum of to 3 to 4 suppliers, got quotations from them, and then just negotiated down. Like my rule of thumb, after a certain point, I just started throwing like 30% lower numbers than what they gave us. And I'm not joking. More often than not, they'd be like, so we can do it for 30%
so less. Like ripping you off from the start.
100%. Like, they're adding that markup from the start. So they're, even with that 30%, they're probably still making money. Just that. And if it wasn't for that, I think Origin would have costed us like 4 times more than what it actually did.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy, honestly. But it's good to know now for, if ever, you branch out somewhere else or like, anyone looking to do a business, it's things you need to consider that I think on the moment you don't kind of bake in, as you say. And so obviously we talked about, finding the space, the offerings, but there's also the whole like design of it, like everything is really very curated. Like, did you work with someone on design choice, or is that where you and Michelle kind of had your own personal, choices come in?
Michelle and I were so clear on what we wanted from the start. And again, like, we're so lucky in that sense that we have the same taste so we never had issues when it came to anything like that. But we put together a mood board of, places that inspired us, the color palettes that we wanted, the mood that we were trying to, portray. And obviously we worked with an architect who was able to take our vision and bring it to life. But I would say that was more so the execution part. But everything else really came from Michelle and I's vision.
Okay. I love that. What is your favorite spot or place in Origin?
I love the infrared room. I love the old brick, and there's these arches that you see when you're like laying down and working out. It's just stunning. And our outdoor spaces, our rooftop and our garden. Like, I love working from our garden. It feels just kind of like an oasis. You step outside and the city is so hectic, and you're in the middle of the maze, and there's wires hanging from the streets, and in there you're like, wow, I feel like I can completely disconnect.
It's a big contrast. But that's what's nice about it. And so obviously behind all of this, you need like a proper team. How did you choose like your teachers, collaborators to kind of get, this all together?
I mean, that's the most important part, right? Like, Lebanon, I won't lie, is quite difficult. I think, as everybody knows, there was a massive brain drain from 5+ years ago that kind of started with the banking crisis and the thawra and etc. So a lot, like, we're such a talented people, and we're so smart and so savvy, but unfortunately, like, so many have left the country. So finding talent was extremely difficult. You have to have there's 2 sides, right? There's the back, operations, our front desk people, our operations people, floor managers, etc. Like Farah, Asma, they have been a major support. They're very trustworthy, really strong workers, straight shooters, personable, etc. So they embody all of that. And then in terms of our instructors, like, we have a very strict recruitment process when it comes to them. So initially, we'll have a first interview to determine if they're like a culture fit.
Okay.
And then we will do mock classes or auditions to determine their like technical skills, but also the ease of how they teach. Because, you know, there's a certain standard that it's a non-negotiable for me that needs to be upheld. Every instructor is going to have their own style and their own personality. And so as human beings, your clients are going to gravitate towards one more than the other.
Sure.
But regardless of that, when you enter one of the class, if you come and do a class, I want to make sure that you know that you will always be met by the utmost professionalism, that your instructor knows their craft so well, that they, you know, are focused on you. They know how to teach you, like as excellent as you can be. That's what we try and uphold, essentially. Even for instructors that we've certified, like for Legree, we certified all of them. Some of them didn't make it onto our schedule because they did not pass that audition. Even though we put in the money to certify them and the time to certify them, if you're not up to that standard, we're not going to put you on the schedule.
Wow. I didn't know that you also did like this certification. Very interesting. I mean, that shows that you really have, you know, your clear kind of like rules on that. And so what kind of culture were you trying to instill within Origin so that you were looking for, you know, those teachers that kind of fit in?
The first thing that we look for is passion and drive. How much do you love your craft? How dedicated are you to learning and improving and growing? Because it's something that's continuous. How much do you see yourself as a teacher, not just an instructor? How good of a team player are you? It's really about an Origin first mentality, and to have the maturity to kind of, and the grace to accept that. I would say that's like our number one priority.
Okay, amazing. And so let's kind of shift gear a bit and talk about the Alo event that happened earlier in March. So they opened, you know, in Beirut, and you hosted the full experience at Origin. How did kind of that happen after not only a year of you being open?
So that was like very interesting because we were already in talks with the group that was like franchising Alo in Lebanon for something completely unrelated. I didn't even know that they were opening Alo in Beirut. During the conversation, obviously that came up, and I jumped on the opportunity. I was like, all right, I mean, that's amazing. Can you put us in contact with the marketing team so that we can find a way where Origin and Alo could collaborate, not knowing to what extent that was going to be, or if it even was going to work out. But the opportunity presented itself, and we, of course, went for it. So just like anything else, we pitched ourselves, our business, our space, our instructors. I mean, opportunities are rarely going to fall in your lap just like that. And I think a lot of people had the same kind of thought process or question as you, but that was it. You just see an opportunity, you go for it, and you work as hard as you can to get it, and we did. And
did you guys kind of like craft the whole thing, like, you know, the different like classes, experiences, offerings, like the whole event, or is it kind of like they had some things that they imposed on you? So
it was a collaborative effort. They said that they before opening any Alo store, they like to curate a wellness day or wellness weekend, and mostly influencer based with different types of activation, just a way to create buzz before the store opening. So they already they had opened just before in Istanbul, and they already saw what worked, what didn't work, what was a success, what activations people liked and didn't like. So they already gave us kind of the framework of what they're looking for, and then they hired a production company as well to curate that. So they were focused mostly on what non-workout activities are we going to include, whether that was the tarot reading, or they brought like face fit and sound healers, etc. And we curated more the classes, like workout classes around it. So it was super collaborative.
Okay, very cool. And so what does a collaboration like that mean for Origin's visibility, obviously, and positioning in the market in Lebanon?
Yeah, it was really catapulted Origin, I would say. Thankfully, since the first day that we opened, Origin did, really well. Yeah. But we were met just soon after with a really tough time geopolitically within the country and the war. And so a lot of people left the country, people stopped going out. There was a massive dips in like daily visits and sales. And obviously, whenever you go through that, the uptick is not going to happen so quickly after that. The recovery takes some time. So we saw it started to recover in January and February, but it was at a slower pace. When the Alo event happened, it was just like an exponential growth after that. So it came really at the right time where we needed it the most.
Yeah, true.
And I think it's not just like locally, but I think regionally it kind of put us on the map. And I don't know if you know this, like Alo Pilates matcha,
yeah, of
like
course.
trend. Like
even if I don't want to know it, I know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people maybe don't know, but this started all because of Origin.
No way.
So yeah, because like we were the Pilates, Alo was Alo, and then we had like a matcha station, and so there was like kind of poking fun at that whole culture, and whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Whether I like it or not, it was good for the business.
Yeah, no, of course. I didn't make the link that it was with Origin. Oh my God. Yeah, because it's like all over TikTok. Oh my God, at some point, like I just couldn't hear it.
I know. Even Alo had it on their actual like TikTok page.
Oh my God.
Like Alo International. Yeah. It was wild.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah. And so what do you think, like, because of that, like it's a kind of huge growth that you had. Where do you see like this growth continuing in the near future for Origin, especially if maybe, I don't know, expanding like regionally or like even within the country? Do you feel like now, I don't know, like spaces get filled up so quickly, and how do you manage kind of that?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, spaces started to fill up more quickly. We saw an uptick in members, etc. Michelle and I always had like really big plans when it came to Origin. I think this was just the push that we needed, or we got a lot of interest of, growing the brand, etc. So I think we would love to focus on growth on many different levels, whether that's, as you said, geographically within Lebanon or regionally, internationally, but also in terms of the offerings that we provide or the different product verticals that we could, adjacent product verticals that we can start to, go into. I think the goal for us is making Origin a global lifestyle brand rather than just have it be associated to silos like Pilates or Legree or etc.
Yeah, I think those you can get from like studios that only do like Pilates, etc.
Exactly.
Exactly. No, I totally get that kind of vibe anyway from it, and I really hope to see it soon in my area. Hopefully. I'll be there to wait for it. And so obviously, people think like starting a wellness business is all about like green juices and working out for yourself, etc. But it's like the back end is very intense, obviously, as we've seen. But I'm sure as well throughout the evolution of the place, your day-to-day has changed and evolved. So what was it looking like, I guess, before, and how has it changed to today for yourself, but also how you'd split, I guess, with Michelle as well?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a lot of questions at the same time.
I'm just like, when you said that, like the first, I don't know if I can cuss, but like it was an absolute shit show. Like the first
it's 8 honest, we need to know that,
was brutal.
Okay.
Like forget the construction part. That was nothing. Piece of cake compared to when we started operations. The amount of things that you need to think about starting a business in general, but I think in Lebanon also, it brought a lot of challenges. Like, first of all, Michelle and we did not have any structure or logic to our days. We were just at Origin, opening the door at 7 a.m. and staying until we closed the door. We didn't have staff. We were front desk checking clients in. We were the maintenance. We were the electrician. We were just running around, honestly, like headless chickens. Yeah. And then, I mean, like, for example, the Lebanon is very particular in its challenges, and gymnasia as well. For example, you don't have, how do you ensure that you have a steady Wi-Fi when you don't have fiber optic internet?
Yeah.
This is not something that anyone in the US has to think about, but this is something that we have to think about. How do you, and your music, for example, it's not just, the internet speed is not that strong for people who are working from there. It's like if your music is streaming and is connected to the Wi-Fi, you don't want it to be choppy. And first few months, our classes, the music was super choppy, going off and on. Like it wasn't the class experience that we wanted to put out. How do you make sure you have electricity throughout the whole day when you don't have a state that provides you with electricity? You don't have space, or maybe it's too expensive to buy your own generator, so you're taking the electricity from the generator guy of the area, and who wants to rip you off insanely by telling you, no, I'm not going to put a meter and you need to pay me this month. I know so much about electricity and water and this that like,
and you shouldn't know about
I don't need to know this much about all of that. So I mean, we had fires and like things like emergencies that had to be put out on a day-to-day basis. But that's how you fine tune. And we didn't just want to stick a band-aid on it. You know, we were like always thinking, okay, this came up. How do we prevent it from happening in the future? And slowly, it took some time. There were a lot of things that were really difficult to figure out, a lot of trying and failing and etc. But now we have a team that, you know, we put the checklist together of all the things that you need to watch out for, how to resolve certain things, and made sure that we had a team that was educated and trained on that and could handle it. So Michelle and I didn't have to be there anymore from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, and didn't have to micromanage as much, which is really important as founders, because you need to have, obviously you need to be involved in everything, but you also need to have the time to think big picture,
of course,
to build the strategy, to think about strategic collaborations, or how do you want to grow, or what pace do you want to do that at, like just more business questions rather than micromanaging. So I would say first, 9 to 9 months were like that, and then when things started to settle down, our day-to-day looks, you know, very differently. We have a lot more structure now. I would say for me, I wake up super early, make sure that all of my work that needs the most mental load is done in the morning, and that my training is done in the morning. And then I'll usually like have that time at Origin, and then come back home for lunch, and then I'll work maybe remotely in the afternoon, pop by Origin as needed, and focus more on like different documentations or planning or coordination, and that, you know, I'll take my meetings and my calls as well in the second half of the day. And then in terms of like I think the other question was split.
Yes.
What is, we have very different backgrounds, very different skill sets. So I'm really focused a lot more on operations and finance, and Michelle on branding and marketing.
Okay.
But everything that's in between, we both contribute depending on how much we have. We both take on depending on how much we have on our plate at that point in time. And again, the benefits of having somebody that you work so well with is we never have to ask each other, hey, can you take, even though it's fine, you can, but like we will both take on as much as we can. So there's never a point in time where I'm like, God, I'm so frustrated because my partner is not putting in as much work as I am. It's never 50-50. It's going to be 70-30 one day, and another day it's going to be, I don't know, 80-20, you know? So,
but you make it work,
You make it work,
and I think in hindsight, I'll say it because I haven't been with you those first months, but it's good that you guys went through that, because when you had to like bring on that team and educate them, you knew exactly, you know, what was happening and how to run the show. Absolutely. So I think it's, in hindsight, a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And so in all of this madness, how do you take care of your own wellness?
I would say, listen, I'm such a type A personality. I need my routine. So the way, like sleeping, or getting enough sleep, waking up early, making sure I'm working out every day, eating healthy, all of that makes me physically and mentally strong and stable and able to show up and be the best version of myself and put in like the energy needed to run a business like this. I know as somebody who's in health and wellness, I should probably say, oh, I meditate, and I don't.
Yeah, maybe it's not your thing.
I don't. I should probably get into it, and when I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I do. I just like, whenever I need a reset, I try and, take myself. What works for me is taking myself out of the environment. And being somewhat close to nature, whether that's in the mountains or in the beach. So I'll like do a little staycation in Lebanon. Or if I, can travel a few days, I'll do that. Just a good reset for me to kind of change environments. And that's what works, I guess.
That's nice. That's very nice. And so if someone kind of listening to this today is dreaming of building their own business and more specifically maybe in the wellness space, what kind of advice and non-negotiables would you have them think about really before jumping in?
I don't know if I have anything that's like wellness specific, but business. In general, I think like find your niche, make sure that it's something that you love and you're passionate about, but that also adds value. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? You just need to come with your own fresh, unique perspective and touch, because consumers and your clients, and they're pretty savvy and they're smart, and your authenticity is felt in a second, and that resonance goes a really long way. So I would say, come with that approach, but then when you start your business, make sure you know every single detail of your business. Know your customers, understand your pain points. Don't outsource the difficult stuff. Everything that I just mentioned from the beginning, don't outsource that. Like the more detail you know about your business, the stronger your foundation. And so, don't outsource the hard stuff, especially not in the beginning. When you start building your team, of course. But I'd say that's the advice.
Perfect. Well, I think that is a beautiful way to close this. I would have loved to talk a lot more, but I'm not going to take more of your time because I know you're very busy as well.
No,
so
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us and for having created, that beautiful space in Lebanon, and such a complex place that people need that oasis as you describe it. So thank you so much, Farah, for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Of course, thank you.
You've been listening to The Seat of the Muse, and I'm so grateful you chose to spend this time with me. If something stirred you today, a thought, a feeling, a question, I'd love for you to subscribe and follow on your favorite platform, leave a review, and even share this episode with a friend. Your support truly fuels this space and helps invite more voices to sit down with me. Until next time, stay curious.